We are collecting what's called the Lottie Moon Christmas offering for international missions from now through Christmas Eve. And that offering is to reach unreached peoples throughout the world. It helps missionaries stay on the mission field and not have to spend and other organizations get to spend like half their time fundraising. The IMB missionaries get to spend all their time on the mission field because people like you and me give to support them. And so I just would encourage you to pray about whether you might give that, whether it's just a couple dollars or whether you have the means to give more. I would just encourage you to think about it. You'll see a couple more videos as we get closer. If you aren't in a place where you can give to that offering, I would encourage you to pray. Prayer is needed as missionaries go and really push back darkness around the world. And so I put that before you. You'll keep hearing about it. But the sermon today is a continuation in our series, Being Human. It is a Christmas series. It is a series that is rooted in the fact that Jesus became man. He became a human. Pastor Dennis kicked us off last week. He reminded us that Jesus is God and has always existed. He reminded us that in order for us to be reconciled to God, he reminded us that we're loved by God, but in order for us to be reconciled to God, Jesus had to become human, and in doing so, he took on flesh. We're going to talk about today is something that Jesus did as a man that he did not do before he took on flesh, and something that we all must do if we want to thrive, and that thing is sleep. Talking about sleep today. Sleep is very important as humans. And what I want to do today is present to you what you might call a theology of sleep. I've been looking forward to this for some time. You know, typically at Bethany, we preach expository sermons where we take one text and we just talk about that one text the whole day. That's probably how we spend 50 of 52 weeks a year here. But this is one of those fun times when I get to look at all of Scripture and bring it together on one topic. And this topic today is sleep, and many Christians are familiar with this one story in particular of Jesus sleeping, and so I'm going to share it with you. It's found in 3 of the Synoptic Gospels, and we'll be reading Matthew's account in Matthew chapter 8, verses 23 to 27. It says this: "And when he, that is Jesus, got into the boat, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves, but he, Jesus, was asleep. And they went and woke him, saying, 'Save us, Lord, we are perishing.' And he said to them, 'Why are you afraid, O you of little faith?' Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men marveled, saying, 'What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him?'" Such a great story. It's a story that we have other details from other Gospels, and one of the details is what Jesus said when he rebuked the storm. Mark chapter 4 tells us that he said, "Peace, be still." Lauren Daigle wrote a very famous song about that, titled that, and our mission statement as a church is people helping people find peace and purpose in Jesus. It's very easy to preach this story. However, that is not what I'm here to do today. I shared that text with you simply because Jesus was asleep. Something that he did not do before he became man. You say, how do you know that? Well, Psalm 121 verse 4 says this: "Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep." And so let's have some fun. Jesus has existed forever. When did he start existing? That's not a question I can answer. He's always existed. So we have the Old Testament, thousands of years. We have the New Testament. We have the history from the New Testament till today. This is what some might say, thousands of years, and then people would say, well, how long did God exist before creation? I don't know the answer to that. But listen, if Jesus is around 33 years old when this story is written, he had slept around 12,000 nights. I say that because I did the math, and that's an approximation. There's a number, a specific number, but that's too much to say. So, around 12,000 nights. He's existed for a whole lot more nights than that, but he didn't sleep until he became a man. Because when he became a man, he took on flesh, and he allowed himself to be limited in ways like we are limited. And one of the ways that we are limited as humans is we require sleep. Sleep is not a punishment because man sinned against God. God actually has Adam sleep before the fall, all right? He puts Adam to sleep in a deep sleep, and he has performed surgery on him. He takes a rib out, and when Adam wakes up, God did a whole lot while he was sleeping, and there is a woman, and he's very excited about that, and that is sleep before the fall. But our main point today is this. It's very simple. God designed humans to require sleep. He designed us this way. We're going to talk about this. He didn't just design us to benefit from sleep, but to require sleep. If you don't sleep, you die. You could not sleep for a day, you could do it for a little while, but eventually you will die. Sleep deprivation is a form of torture that's used in interrogations to get people to talk because they start to not function correctly and they might say something that they wouldn't have said if they had a good night's sleep. And while this sermon is not about how man is different than animals, which is very important because the Bible tells us man is made in the image of God. You'll hear a sermon about that in January. We are very different than animals in that sense. We are similar to animals in one sense, at least, which is we both sleep. But have you ever thought about how much of your life is spent sleeping? It's like a third, right? So that's average sleep, 8 hours a night, 24 hours in a day. A third of your life is spent sleeping. I got to tell you that I didn't like that. I've come into terms with it. But I know some people who are older than me who don't have to sleep as long as me, and I'm like, I wish I could do that and not be tired. Because it seems like that's like the good genes and you're more productive. And I have to sleep longer and I'm still tired. We'll talk about the reasons I was tired, but that's later in the sermon. You know the saying, I can sleep when I'm dead? People say that? It sounds noble, right? It sounds noble. It's like, oh yeah, you're just like a go-getter. You're gonna do. Listen, if you believe that and actually apply it to your life like it's a command and you actually live like that, you're going to die. You're going to die sooner than you would if you cooperated with God's design for you and got a good night's sleep on a regular basis. Right? Sometimes you're not going to get a good night's sleep, but as a regular basis, it's part of being human that you require a good night's sleep. And I realized something because I'm in a small group that has a lot of little babies in it. Well, at least their parents are in the group, and so we consider them the babies parts of the group. But they don't get a good night's sleep that often. And I'm not here to make them feel bad about that, because if I didn't say this, I would hear it in a small group on Tuesday when we talk about the sermon. So I'll say it now. That's not what I'm talking about. That is a season of life where God will give you the grace that you need to survive. And don't forget, He created coffee beans. So you will get through it. But we live in a day where getting a good night's sleep is more complicated than it was even 200 years ago. But let's go back to Jesus' time. It's way more complicated today to get a good night's sleep than it was for Jesus. I'll give you a lot of reasons, but I'll give you one. The light bulb. The light bulb did not exist in the Old Testament, the New Testament, at the Reformation in the 1500s. The light bulb didn't exist in 1800. The light bulb has only been around for around 150 years. To be up at night prior to the light bulb being common, right? I'm not even saying it was common 150 years ago, but like to be up at night prior to the invention of the light bulb took effort. You had to Get a candles and light them. Get wood and make a fire and have it, or have like a torch and have it to see at night. And you knew that it was dark. There's just some light. We live in a day where it's like, what kind of light do you want? Do you want warm light, cool light, dim light? You can turn on all the light. Do you want the light to change? We have all this technology that allows us to make nighttime daytime. You know what I'm saying? Like, it gets dark at 5 right now, so like I'm not saying that 5 o'clock should be nighttime. I wonder if it's supposed to be nighttime, but 5 o'clock is very early, and it's dark. And I have an office here, and there's no windows. There's a window, but it's to the inside. And if I'm here at 5 o'clock and I go outside, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's dark. I didn't even know that. Like, it's the same. It's the same at 9 a.m., and it's the same at 10 p.m. on the inside because the lights are the same. Today, we can make nighttime seem like daytime, and we are less than 150 years into figuring out how to live with light bulbs. And you're like, we're way beyond light bulbs. No, we don't know how to do this well. There's all kinds of stuff. Cell phones, all this stuff that we have, technology, TV, all these things that we have, but we haven't even figured out how to handle having a light bulb when it comes to good sleep habits. I like light bulbs. I like them a lot. I do not want to go to bed at 5 p.m. in December. Do not want to do that. All I'm saying is that life and sleep is more complicated for us today than it was for people even 200 years ago. And even though that's true, there were things that made sleep challenging all the way back in the Old Testament before any of this stuff that we deal with today. Look at what Solomon wrote in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 21 to 24. It says, "My son, do not lose sight of these. Keep sound wisdom and discretion, and they will be life for your soul and adornment for your neck. Then you will walk on your way securely, and your foot will not stumble. If you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet." Now, you need to remember, Proverbs are not promises. You can do a lot of spiritual harm by preaching or teaching a proverb as a promise. Proverbs are wise sayings that tell us how things usually work. But this one says, if you keep sound wisdom and discretion, you will not be afraid when you lie down, and when you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. So it brings up some topics like things that keep you up at night, like anxiety. And there's a reality that sometimes we make choices that lead to anxiety, and there's a reality that sometimes we haven't processed the day, so there's anxiety. There's all kinds of things. You guys have heard me talk about anxiety before. But if you boil down what this text says to its basic teaching on sleep, it's this: wisdom and discretion are needed to sleep well at night. And so before we talk about, I'm going to give you 3 things the Bible teaches about sleep that are foundational, that are important to know. Let's acknowledge this. If you drink coffee right before you go to bed, we would call that not living with wisdom and discretion. And so you should expect there to be some challenges. I am one that would argue even a year ago that I still can. I could drink a cup of coffee 30 seconds before going to bed and go right to sleep. But that doesn't mean the quality of my sleep is correct. And the only way you know if your quality of sleep is correct is if you get testing. So if you want to trust the experts, your sleep quality would be better if you stop drinking coffee earlier in the day, and I'll give you some specifics on that in next steps. But I'm going to share with you, like I said, 3 important foundational things the Bible tells us about sleep. Number 1, sleep is a gift from God. Unlike what I viewed sleep as a necessary evil, sleep is annoying, sleep is something I wish I didn't have to do. No, sleep is a gift from God. I get this from Psalm 127, verse 2. It says this: "It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives to his beloved sleep." This verse tells us a couple of things, but one of them is that waking up extra early and staying up late to get some things done because you're anxious is vain. Vain means futile, ineffective. And we could talk about it in lots of ways, but the reality is the tireder you are, the less productive you will be. This isn't a proverb, this is a psalm, right? But there's a proverb wise saying in there if you want to take it. God designed sleep to be the time when your brain categorizes the things that you've experienced throughout the day and decides what to get rid of and what to keep. And the next day you wake up, you were trying to solve something last night, you stayed up really late, you couldn't figure it out. You wake up the next morning and you know the answer. That's God doing something. It's the way he designed you. Does it require his active role? And no, he just designed your brain to work like that. When you wake up in the morning, your brain, if you had a good night's sleep, it has categorized yesterday's events. And when you wake up, you might be able to figure some problems out that you couldn't figure out before you went to bed. But the other thing that this verse tells us is that God gives his beloved sleep. You say, who's that? Well, that's us. We are God's beloved if we are in Christ. But does that mean that each night when we lay down that God has to come like a fairy and sprinkle some little dust on our eyes so that we can sleep? Does it require his active role for us to be able to sleep at night? And you're like, is that what it? No, it's not. It does not require that. That is some fairy tale. But I'm also not saying that if you have insomnia, it's because you're not God's beloved. Right? We're going to talk about maybe some reasons why you can't sleep, some spiritual reasons why you can't sleep. That's a thing. However, I'm not saying that God doesn't love you because you have insomnia. Not what I'm saying. And here's what I believe that this idea that God gives his beloved sleep means. Unlike other authorities, our supreme ruler, God, does not expect you to do more in a day than you can do in a day. Does that make sense? The person we ultimately are accountable to in life to is God. The person we answer to is God. Your boss may give you 2 days of work to do in one day, and they may be very mad at you if you don't get it done. God is not like that. God does not give you more work to do in a day than there is time in the day to do it. You might have to prioritize. You might not be able to do all the things and binge watch Netflix and this and that. However, God does not expect you to do more in a day than there's time in a day to do. Others might expect that from you, but God wants you to cooperate with his design and get a good night's sleep. We're going to see why this is so important as we go throughout this message. Because if you choose to choose, right? If you choose to neglect good sleep habits, that is not God's will for you. It won't just affect you physically, it also will affect you spiritually. I want to read to you a long quote from D.A. Carson in a book he wrote in 2010 called Scandalous. We'll put it up on the screen. It says, doubt may be fostered by sleep deprivation. If you keep burning the candle at both ends, sooner or later you will indulge in more and more mean cynicism. And the line between cynicism and doubt is a very thin one. Of course, different individuals require different numbers of hours of sleep. Moreover, some cope with a bit of tiredness better than others. Nevertheless, if you are among those who become nasty, cynical, or even full of doubt when you are missing your sleep, you are morally obligated to get the sleep you need. We are whole, complicated beings. Our physical existence is tied to our spiritual well-being, to our mental outlook, to our relationship with others, including our relationship with God. Sometimes the godliest thing you can do in the universe is to get a good night's sleep. Not pray all night, but sleep. I'm certainly not denying that there may be place for praying all night. I'm merely insisting that in the normal course of things, spiritual discipline obligates you to get the sleep your body needs. D.A. Carson is a well-respected Bible scholar, and so I share that with you. But you may be thinking, like, Pastor, you're telling me I came to church today so you could tell me that I need to get a good night's sleep? Yep, that's why you're here. But not just for the reasons your doctor will give you, but there's spiritual reasons that your doctor may not really care about. Part of being human is to be humble enough to say, this is how God designed me. He designed me to need a good night's sleep, therefore I'm going to cooperate with his design. I told you we have 3 foundational things. That was only one. Sleep is a gift from God. The second one is this: you can sleep too much. This may not be your problem. Probably not your problem, unless you're a teenager, right? If you're sleeping at 10 a.m. and you're not sick, probably need better sleep habits. Just saying. Listen to what Solomon wrote in Proverbs. Same teaching in 2 places, Proverbs 6 and Proverbs 24, but we're going to look at the one from Proverbs 6. Verse 9 to 11 says this: how long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. And poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. Some of you are like, I'm going to memorize this and say it to my teenager whenever they sleep past 10 a.m. And I say, you got to decide if you're going to do that. I don't want to spend too much time here because I don't think this is the problem that most people have, that they sleep too much. It's challenging to sleep enough, so to sleep too much is, at some level, you want to say it's impressive to be able to do that, but at another level, there might be a reason for it, right? So I was getting the recommended hours of sleep a night, right? 7 to 9 is the recommended hours of sleep for an adult, and I was always tired. So funny story, I just thought it was life for me. I thought it was normal to be like, I need to take a nap. And take a nap and get up and be like, okay, I can make it now, give me a cup of coffee, and I'm good. I thought that was normal, probably for the past decade, until my loving wife told me that I needed to get help because I was yelling in my sleep, shouting in my sleep. Multiple times a night without waking up, but she was waking up. I was saying stuff like, fried chicken. Seriously. And I was asleep the whole time. Come to find out, my brain was awake, but my body was asleep. Seriously, my brain, I'll tell you what it was, but my brain was awake 50% of the night. But my body's asleep. So I tell people I should be way smarter now. I get this fixed. But anyways, so I was sleeping the right amount of hours, but I wasn't getting good quality sleep. So I was tired, and so I went to a doctor. I said, hey, I'm here. I sleep fine, but my wife says I yell at night. She showed me a video, so I know she's telling the truth. And so therefore, I need you to fix me. And he gives me these things. He's like, you're going to do this sleep study. You're going to do 2 days to check your oxygen level while you're sleeping, and 2 days to check your brain activity. And I did all, he's like, all 4 days said you have obstructive sleep apnea. What happens is 9 times an hour for you, you stop breathing every hour while you're sleeping because your windpipe, it compresses, and what happens is every time that it happens, your brain is waking up, and that's when you're that's when you're saying things because your brain is awake, even though it's not enough for your body to sleep. Your body's kind of like managing itself, but that's why you're always tired. And I had just gone to the doctor and got blood work done, and my blood work said I had pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes is a symptom of sleep apnea. Because I didn't get a good night's sleep. There's nothing else I need to change. My doctor didn't know that. I went there because my wife said I was yelling at night. But when I went to the sleep place, I looked at the symptoms, and pre-diabetes is a symptom of sleep apnea. So you get the sleep apnea fixed, and then that goes away. I can keep eating what I want. Anyways, 39 million Americans have obstructive sleep apnea, and they told me, don't worry. It's very treatable with something called a CPAP, and so they give me a mask. And I have this mask and this machine, it's pretty cool, and I put it on. And the first night I use this thing, it's like uncomfortable and stuff, but the first night I wake up and I'm like, what is this? I have so much energy. I don't even need coffee. Like, it was crazy. I was like, this is like somebody injected me with adrenaline or something. And it's been that way since. Like, I drank coffee this morning, but I drove here, then I drank coffee. Before, sometimes, seriously, I'd be so tired when I come here, because I come here early on Sunday mornings, I would have to pull over at Dunkin' Donuts, get a coffee just to make it here alive, because I was so tired. But I was like, I got to get here, it's my job, but that's how tired I was. Now, I could get here with no coffee, and I just like coffee. Sometimes I'd be like, hey, Dennis, it's decaf. Look, tastes good. But if you're always tired and you're sleeping enough, talk to your doctor. You're not supposed to be tired all the time. I thought it was normal. It's not. So I share that with you. It causes all kinds of things. If you have sleep apnea and it's not treated, you'd be like, well, I'll just deal with it. No, you're going to get a heart attack. Like, eventually it's going to cause major problems. So if you are always tired and you're sleeping enough, go get checked out. So I just throw that out there. But you could sleep too much. I can sleep less now and have more energy than I could before. I only need to sleep 4 hours to feel like I slept before. And I was sleeping 8. Now, if I sleep 6, it's like, that's pretty good. 8, I'm like, I feel amazing. Anyways, the Bible teaches sleep is a gift from God. You can sleep too much. Lastly, you can sleep too little. There's a lot of reasons for this. We saw one in Psalm 127, verse 2. So we'll read that again. But one is a belief that the world depends on you. And another is a lack of peace, which is also called anxiety. Psalm 127, verse 2 says this: "It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives to his beloved sleep." The person who regularly is burning the candle at both ends is doing so, whether they realize it or not, because of a result of a belief that the world depends on them. But the reality is, God watches over us while we're sleeping. He can run things while we get the rest that he designed us to need. And in fact, this song we were singing earlier, I depend on you, right? Yeah, well, no, I depend on me, so I'm not going to sleep, right? That's what we do. No, we have to depend on God. God, like, the day's over, and I've done everything I can. Help me to have peace while I sleep tonight, and I'll pick this up tomorrow. That might be what you have to say. But the other thing that keeps people awake at night, other than thinking the world depends on them, is anxiety. And anxiety can be a vicious cycle. I speak of one who has suffered from anxiety from a diagnosable level. So I don't speak of it as just like it's just a word. No, it means something. However, anxiety can be a vicious cycle where anxiety can go from you feel anxiety, so you can't sleep, and then now you have anxiety because you didn't sleep. And it just keeps going and going and going until you find a way to break the cycle. But here's the truth. Christians should sleep better than anyone else. And I say that recognizing that I needed a machine to get a good night's sleep. So let's make sure that we keep things in balance. But I want to point out to you Jesus' last words on the cross, and then I'm going to tie them to sleep, and you're going to be like, what are you doing? Luke 23:46 says this: "Then Jesus, calling out with a loud voice, said, 'Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.' And having said this, he breathed his last." Now that's like a powerful phrase. You could picture Jesus up on a cross, hanging there in front of everybody in shame, dying. Literally, life's about to leave him, and he's saying, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." But what I learned as I studied this is that this was not something that was isolated to Jesus saying this on the cross. This is a quote from Psalm 31, verse 5, and it was a traditional Jewish evening prayer. "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." I would liken it to the prayer that a lot of kids are taught to pray today. "Now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take." It's like that. So Jesus would have prayed, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit," more than once as a traditional Jewish boy. We can pray that too. Christians should be able to sleep better than anyone else. Because we do not believe that death is the end. Rather, we believe death is a doorway. And so you say, all this stuff's happening. I could die, all this stuff. Yes, it's possible that that's what you're dealing with. However, death is not the end. Death is a doorway. If you are in Christ, if you've placed your faith in the finished work of Jesus Christ, who came to earth as a baby, Christmas, who died on the cross, Good Friday, rose from the grave, Easter, if you've placed your faith in that, what Jesus has done for you, when you die, you will be with Jesus. And so while you're like, I don't want to die tonight, I don't want to say that. I'm not saying you want to die tonight. What I'm saying is you're at peace in saying that if I die tonight, I go be with Jesus. This is an important thing because you say, well, what about my family? God can take care of your family. He can. And now I think of objections, right? I think of objections to this. Well, what if I have a family member that didn't tell about Jesus? Well, what should you do? You stay up at night one night, pray about it. The next day, tell them about Jesus. I'm not saying you stay up at night because they didn't respond to you telling them about Jesus. I'm saying you've never told them about Jesus. You should tell them about Jesus. Oh, but I didn't get my life insurance policy finalized yet. Okay, get on the computer, finish it, and then go to sleep. Like, I'm not saying be foolish. There's things that you can give your family $1 million if you die in your sleep. Why don't you take advantage of that? You think it's important? Do it. But how many nights do you need to stay awake because of that? One. Then do it. And then go to sleep. Every Christian needs to get to the place where we can say, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And the good news about that is once you get to that place, you can be there every single night. Right? It might take you a while to get there the first time, but then after you get there, that's a place where you can get back to every single night. And it's what real peace looks like, because real peace only comes in relationship with Jesus. You might have a friend that can sleep just fine at night after just, like, this person is a Satan worshiper. Let's just use an extreme. And they could sleep fine at night. You know why they could sleep fine at night? It's because they don't have all the information. If they really knew all of the real, absolute truth in the universe, they would not sleep fine at night. They would be staying up all night, wanting to talk to you about how to get to know Jesus. But if you're a Christian, you know Jesus. The worst thing that can happen to you is what? To be separated from Jesus for all of eternity. That's been taken care of. Nothing can separate you from the love of Christ. When you sleep at night, the worst thing that happens to you is you go be with Jesus. The best thing that happens to you is you wake up the next day, and then when you wake up the next day after praying, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit, you know what you can say? God, thank you for waking me up today, and actually mean it. Because we just take it as a given. I'm going to wake up tomorrow. No, you might not. But when you wake up tomorrow, you say, God, thank you for waking me up today. Help me to honor you in everything I do today. Thank you for giving me another day. But what I do now is I want to give you some next steps. I want to give you some next steps because this is a very practically leaning sermon, a sermon that if you don't take it as a practical sermon, I don't know what you take it as, but it's a sermon about sleep, and you sleep every day. So we're going to talk about some things to consider. So if you get out your phone, scan the QR code, it'll take you to our Connect card. On your Connect card, there are places for you to let us know who you are, how we can contact you, prayer requests. You can let us know if you're interested in things like beginning a relationship with Jesus. If you can't sleep in peace at night, we want to help you. We want to either tell you or remind you of the gospel, whereby if you receive Jesus, you will be saved and you will be able to sleep in peace at night. If you check the box for beginning a relationship with Jesus, we will reach out to you. But next step A is this. Ask yourself some questions about your sleep. And I'll just give you a few that you can consider. Am I sleeping enough? Am I tired during the day? Do I struggle to fall asleep because I'm anxious? Am I able to pray what Jesus just prayed? What Jesus prayed on the cross? Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Do I believe God will watch over my family while I sleep tonight? Right? You might have some more questions you might ask. But next step B is make one positive change in your sleep habits. I'm going to give you 5 practical tips that I have learned in my journey to sleep well at night. And I don't mean, I've never in a long time had a problem falling asleep at night. As a kid, I had a problem falling asleep at night, very afraid. As an adult, I could sleep like that. Even with the poor quality of sleep, like if I was not sleeping in 3 minutes, I'm set. Like something's wrong. I could drink coffee and fall asleep within 3 minutes without exception for the last 10 years. However, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about quality of sleep. So here are some tips. 1, plan to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. This is what the powers that be say is the recommended amount of sleep for an adult. You may be able to get by on 6 hours of sleep if you're older, because the 7 to 9 is for young adults, and as you get older, you might need less. But what I'm saying to you is you ought not be tired all day, right? If you're tired all day, you might need more sleep. And to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep, if you're getting 5 hours of sleep now, is going to be a huge adjustment. It's going to be a huge adjustment, and you're going to need to really figure out what changes am I making for that to happen. Second tip, cut off coffee at least 5 hours before going to bed, regardless of whether you're like me and can fall asleep right after drinking coffee. The half-life of coffee is 5 hours, and up until its half-life, it impacts your ability to sleep or your quality of sleep. That's what the NIH says, National Institute for Health. For some people, this 5 hours is 9.5 hours, they say. And so what that would mean if you go to bed at 10 is you can't drink coffee after lunch if you want to have a good night's sleep, if you're one of those people. And so you have to just figure this out. I'm one that I'm going to go to bed at 10 and it's like 5 o'clock, let me get my coffee real quick because I like it, right? And maybe I'll drink decaf. However, that's that. 3, stop eating at least 3 hours before going to bed. I don't do this, but my doctor said that I should do this. And so I'm sharing it with you because your digestion will impact your sleep. So I just feel like I shouldn't impact the tips based on my failure to abide by them. Number 4, limit blue light exposure 1 hour before bed. This one is really cool because blue light is the daytime light. It's the light that tells your brain in the circadian cycle, if you look this up, that you're supposed to be awake. And all of technology emits blue light, and some phones and TVs, you can turn it off, but it looks really bad. But anyways, if you limit this, it'll tell your body it's time to get ready for bed. I'm not going to do that, but I bought glasses, right? I bought blue light glasses so that I can watch TV before I go to bed and not have it get into my brain. So I block the blue light, and then I go to sleep. If you can avoid it altogether, even better. The last one is the one that I actually think is the most impactful and interesting. Get to bed no later than midnight. This, if you're like, I'm not going to do that, I want to hear your argument because I'm going to tell you something. Your body has processes that function while you sleep. And so somebody gave me this example after first service to use, so I'm going to use it. So you know how you have an iPhone and it's it will update if you plug it in, and if it's not plugged in, it won't update at night? Have anybody seen that, right? You have to be connected to the power source to update. Okay, that happens all the time, on your phone. Every single day, your liver wants to detox between 1 and 3 a.m. If you are awake, it will not detox. It doesn't do it later, it just skips it. If your brain is awake like mine was, your liver doesn't detox. So this is common with people with sleep apnea. Once you get it fixed and you can sleep at night, you start waking up at like 1 to 3 a.m. every night because your liver is so like behind and it catches up. This is why all these health problems come from bad sleep, because your body has functions that run while you're sleeping at certain times, no matter what, only if you're asleep. And let's think about the reason why most people are up after midnight. They're doing damage to their liver. Their liver is not detoxing. They're asking to die. And they don't even know it. So I share it with you. Go to bed before midnight as a regular thing. Maybe you stay up till midnight on New Year's Eve. How about that's it? And then you go to bed earlier. This is why I made the bold statement about 10 a.m. Because let's say you stay up till 1 and you sleep till 10 a.m., right? I just think it's foolish because you're not allowing your liver to function the way God designed it, so you got to go to bed earlier so that your liver can function. You need to be asleep between 1 and 3 a.m., not like in deep sleep, not just like, oh, I just laid down, it's 12:55, let me go to bed real quick. No, go to bed before then so that it'll work. And there's other processes like it, which is your metabolic system. If you don't get a good night's sleep, you start gaining weight. All this stuff doesn't work because you're supposed to be asleep at night. And one thing I came across, which is, it's sad, but it's also like, I don't know what you do about it. In Denmark, they are giving workers' comp to nurses who get breast cancer because of the night shift. Like they don't even ask questions. If you get breast cancer and you were a nurse, they give you workers' comp because they have tied it to your job. Because you don't sleep when you're supposed to sleep, and you do it for the greater good, all that stuff. However, it's going to cause a problem. And so if you're in that place, there's some things you can do, and there's some things that they're trying to do now to mitigate it, but it causes problems. It really does. And so like saying I'm just going to work at night and stay up that's not good for you. God didn't design you to work like that. And so if you do it as a sacrifice, but recognize that it's going to cause problems. So you got to sleep at some point, like somewhere related to the darkness, you need to go to sleep. All right. None of these tips I just shared requires you to be a Christian. You know that, right? Like these are all practical things. As a Christian, I believe God is the one that designed all these things to work the way they work. And so therefore for me, it's like I'm going to cooperate as a Christian with the way God designed me. And to not do so would be, you might say, sinful, right? And so I put this before you. But what I'm more passionate about today than you getting a good night's sleep, which I am passionate about, is next step C. Invite someone to join you on Christmas Eve who doesn't have a reason to sleep in peace. That's like most of the world. You likely have neighbors who don't have a reason to sleep in peace, and if they do sleep in peace, it's because they don't have all the information. And so I share this with you because our goal is to help people find peace and purpose in Jesus. And if someone has found peace, they are going to be able to pray, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit each and every night before they go to bed. And there are tons of people outside of these walls, maybe a few in this room, who can't pray that. We want to change that. We want God to use us to reach people who say, if I die, maybe they think it's the end. I just cease to exist. I don't want to do that. I want to make the most of my life. We believe that when we die, we go be with Jesus. We don't have to fear death. However, we are amidst people who fear death, who let the fear of death control them. We'll talk about that a little bit next week, but I want you to invite someone who can't pray, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Invite them to join us on Christmas Eve, and then pray that God will do the work. Remember I said, if you're staying up at night because you haven't told someone about Jesus, you should tell them about Jesus? Yeah, you should. But then after you tell them about Jesus, you shouldn't not sleep because they haven't responded yet. That's in God's hands. What's in your hands is talking to them, but then God has to do the work. And so to say in a sense, it could seem noble to be like, God, I'm not going to sleep anymore until this person comes to know you. I don't think that makes sense. I think you could do things like fast and you could do things, but you got to sleep. God designed you to need sleep. And so you might say, I'm going to stay up one night, but you're not going to stay up every night and be healthy. It's not the way God designed you. Next step D is our final one. Don't forget to figure out what you're giving Jesus for his birthday. Christmas, Jesus' birthday. That's what we call the day someone's born. So the day we celebrate Jesus being born is Christmas, his birthday. My gift for Jesus this year is I'm just giving a small amount of money to the Lottie Moon Christmas offering. I didn't plan for it. I probably should have. And because I didn't plan for it, I walked in my garage, I looked around at my hobby stuff, and I said, which of these things do I not need even though I really like? And I took it, and I put it on Marketplace, sold it, and then I got some money to give to the Lottie Moon Christmas offering because it's important to me, right? It's like not in the budget, but I found the way. Right? And so I'm just sharing that with you. That's what I chose to do. You may have viewed your angel tree gift that you picked up last week as your gift for Jesus. Maybe it's helping out with the homeless people who are getting situated. Maybe your Christmas gift for Jesus is to come to the candlelight service, right? As I thought about that, it's a gift too, Jesus. It's a gift for me to be there. I know I'm preaching, but it's at 7. And the Cowboys play at 4:25, so it's going to be the fourth quarter. So if you're a Cowboys fan, I see 2 in the room at least that are at least proud to be Cowboys fans. If you come to Christmas Eve at 7 p.m., that is a sacrifice. We're playing the Dolphins, right? It's a big deal, right? So I'm going to turn my phone off after the third quarter. I'm going to go out to dessert, and somebody's going to tell me what happened. I know they will. They're going to either brag that they lost or not tell me that they won because they don't want me to feel good. And then I'm going to have to tell myself, this is Jesus' birthday party. This is not about football, right? Anyways, you might have a different reason that you want to be here. Maybe you have some sort of like some TV show that you're going to miss, right? Come, celebrate Jesus' birthday. He wants your presence more than he wants anything else. And when you have your gift figured out, you're going to bring we ask you, we've done this for a few years, you bring a box that's empty. You wrap it and you put it under the tree in the living room. It just symbolizes all the gifts that our church is giving to Jesus this year. It's more of an accountability thing and a reminding thing than it is anything else. And so there's only a few out there now. And so I'm hoping over the next couple of Sundays and Christmas Eve, we'll see more gifts placed under that tree. But we're going to close our time together today by reminding ourselves of the reason we can sleep in peace at night, which is our relationship with Jesus Christ. The song is Christ is Enough. Would you stand as we sing?
Our physical, our emotional, our spiritual parts of our being, Father. And I thank you also that science is uncovering this, and it's more things that just point to you as a grand creator of everything that we see, Father. But I thank you so much for it. Thank you for this advice, Father. And then I pray, Father, that each one of us would be a beacon of peace as we implement this, and our friends would see that there's something a little bit different about us because we follow you, because we have surrendered our lives to you, Father. So give us this peace, make this peace show, and help us to explain the peace of the people that you have placed around us. You're an awesome God. We thank you so much. We love you, and we pray all of this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Don't forget to hit submit on your Connect card, and have a great week. Grace and peace, church.